Hey friends, this is Joe Franks. It's Thursday morning and just a short devotional for you that comes from the daily reading that some of us have been doing as we've been reading through the New Testament this year. A very famous verse that I'll get to in a moment, but I want to ask you a question. Are you laboring? Are you working incredibly hard as a student to make the grades or make the team? Are you working hard in your vocation to make the deal, make a profit, make a future? How about as a family man or woman? Trying to make a godly marriage, and are you trying to make disciples and build a solid family? Are you laboring hard? In the political specter, are you trying to make America great? Are you trying to make America great again? Maybe you're one of the ones that are trying to remake America, so you might think it would be more just and righteous and fair. As you get older, are you trying to make an identity? Are you trying to make a name for yourself? Have you attached yourself to a church and you're just working really, really hard trying to make disciples, to make a difference, to make your church be known? And in regards to your spiritual life, are you trying to make amends? Do you realize that you haven't always been all that to God and you're trying to make things right? You're trying to make resolutions. You're doing everything you can to make other people look around you and nod and say, hey, you're growing in righteousness. And you're even trying to get God to look at you, nod, smile, stand up and applaud, saying, well done, my good and faithful servant. That's a lot of areas in life, isn't it? Where we're laboring hard as a citizen, as a family man, in our vocation, in our schooling, in our society. I guess the next question I want to ask is, are you weary? Are you absolutely worn out? I get that way quite often. The stress of just trying to keep up with the Joneses, to be the perfect pastor, the perfect husband, the perfect father, the perfect neighbor, trying hard to make Jesus like me and applaud and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And it absolutely wears me out. A lot like what the people to whom Jesus was speaking in Matthew 11 were feeling. You see, they had received the covenant of works. They had received God's moral law that said they were to love God with every part of their being all the time, and they were to love their neighbor as themselves. And then those Israelites had also received the 10 commandments, the 10 big rules that stem from the moral law, and it gave them a bunch of other things they were to do all the time without fail. To them, God also gave ceremonial legislation, all of these worship rules they had to keep to make God like them and approve of their worship, and the civil laws, which were supposed to govern their society. And they had all these laws, and it was like this huge weight on them because God's laws are heavy and they're not light, and they had to keep all of them all the time without fail. But then the sad Israelites in chapter 11 also had those laws of the elders and the Pharisees and the scribes, the religious pastors of their day, who said, as if God's laws weren't enough, let us add a whole bunch more in regards to how you can eat, how you can drink, where you can walk, what you can do. And they added all these religious laws. And I think the Israelites were absolutely worn out. It was like a huge, heavy yoke had been put on their shoulders, and then another yoke been put on that. And that's not it. In addition to the yoke, it was connected to a cart, and in the cart was an unbearable load that they had to pull as if they were taking a ton up a hill. They were weary and worn out. And maybe you feel that way. Just can't make the grade. You just can't make the cut. You just can't keep everybody happy. You've tried and you've tried and you've tried to be the perfect worker, family man, or citizen. You've tried hard to make a difference in this life and make a reputation for yourself, and you've tried really hard to do better and make Jesus nod and smile and say 2021 is even better than 2020. And now we feel fatigued, overwhelmed. We don't know which plate to spin because none of the plates are going well. We feel like Pilgrim, who had that burden on his back, and everywhere he went to have someone relieve the burden, someone added another weight or another pound onto his burden. And this is what you feel like. So what will you do? Can I read these words to you? Jesus Christ comes to you. Do you get that? He comes to you. Jesus Christ comes to you. He moves towards you, sinner, not away from you. And He comes to you with a heart, His innermost being, that which drives Him, a heart that is gentle and meek and tender and kind. And He comes to you in low estate, the text says. He's not high and lifted up as He comes to you. He gets down on your level. He's so welcoming and approachable. And what does He say to you? He doesn't say, woe, like He did to the Pharisees, but He looks at you and He says, come. Come to me. He's inviting you. You know how I know that? Because He's inviting all. Come to me, all. Anyone and everyone who's heavy laden. And what does He say? I'm going to give you my yoke and it's kind. I'm going to give you my burden and it's light. It's as if Jesus is saying, you know the covenant of works? Come away from that and come to the covenant of grace. You know that law of performance? Come away from that and let the promise that I have for you be that which thrills your soul. He's calling you away from the extra rules of religion, which He never intended, which men have heaped on His own law. And He's saying, come to me, because my yoke is easy, my burden is light. He's calling you away from Satan, who wants to go, nah, 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 and point out your sins. And He's calling you to get His righteousness, His robe, and His Father's approval, where every single day He says, well done, my good and faithful servants, not because of what you and I have done, but because of what Jesus Christ has done. He's calling you to take a yoke, and Dane Ortland uses this illustration. It's like a life preserver for a drowning man. And who wouldn't want that light yoke? Who wouldn't want that easy burden? You're going down, but here's something that will keep you afloat. And twice in this passage, come to me, all you who are heavy, who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Later on, He says, and you will find rest for your souls. Friends, I know this world is not at rest. This nation is not at rest. And Satan would have you not be at rest. But Jesus Christ is coming with a tender heart. He's inviting you to come near. Come to Him. Join with Him in prayer. Read His Word. Leave the folly of the world behind. Let go of performance. Grab promise. Be surrounded by His people and let His Spirit work through them to nourish your soul. Jesus Christ offers you refreshment. He's standing at the door. He's knocking. Open up. Let Him take the yoke off and add His pleasant yoke, for it's easy, light, and you will find refreshment for your souls.